The icy winds of the Arctic have long carried stories of ships that vanished without a trace, their names whispered among sailors as warnings against hubris and the unyielding brutality of nature. Among these legends, none is more chilling than that of the Octavius, a tale woven from the frost-bitten silence of the polar seas, where the line between life and death blurs, and where the unknown holds sway over even the bravest of souls. It was the year 1775 when the whaling ship Herald pressed through the dense mists off the coast of Greenland, its crew hardened by months at sea. The air crackled with cold, and as the sun hung low on the horizon, a strange silhouette emerged from the fog. A battered, ice-sheathed vessel drifting listlessly, its sails tattered and ghostly, creaking in the wind. The ship's name was just visible through a crust of frost: Octavius. The Herald's crew watched in uneasy silence. Something about the derelict vessel set their nerves on edge. The Octavius appeared untouched by storm or fire, yet it drifted alone, neglected by the hands that should have cared for her. The whalers exchanged wary glances. They were seamen, well acquainted with tales of vessels lost to the ice or swallowed by the depths, but this ship seemed to carry its own aura of dread. Curiosity and duty warred within them, but in the end, a boarding party was assembled. They rowed across the choppy water, each man keenly aware of the unnatural stillness that surrounded the Octavius. The closer they drew, the more the vessel seemed less a relic of wood and sail, and more a mausoleum, preserved by the cold. Climbing aboard, the men found the deck dusted with snow, the rigging stiffened by frost. No footsteps disturbed the powder. No voices broke the silence. The door to the captain's quarters stood ajar, swaying slightly with each gust of wind. Summoning their courage, the men entered. What they found inside would haunt them for the rest of their lives. Seated at his desk was the captain, his body rigid, a pen frozen in his gloved hand. His eyes, wide and glassy with terror, stared at nothing. Before him lay the ship's logbook, open to a page dated November 11th, 1762, 13 years past. Around him, in various states of repose, were the officers of the ship, their bodies preserved by the relentless chill, their faces twisted in expressions of fear and agony. The logbook told a brief, cryptic story. The Octavius had set out in 1761 from England, bound for the Far East. On her return journey, the captain had gambled on a new route, seeking the fabled Northwest Passage, a perilous shortcut that promised wealth and glory to those who could master it. But the Arctic does not yield her secrets easily. The last entry described the ship's position: 75°, 160°, far north of Alaska, deep within the grasp of the polar ice. The men of the Herald realized, with a creeping horror, that the Octavius had been trapped in the ice for over a decade, its crew dying slowly as the cold gnawed at them, their hopes fading as the endless night fell. How the ship had broken free and drifted all the way to Greenland was a mystery. Perhaps the shifting ice had finally released its hold, setting the Octavius on a final, aimless voyage. But it was not the mere fact of death that so terrified the boarding party. It was the look on the faces of the dead, the wide eyes, the open mouths, the hands frozen in gestures of terror. The crew had not died peacefully, but in the grip of some unspeakable fear, their final moments imprinted on their countenances for eternity. The men did not linger. They left the Octavius adrift, unwilling to disturb what felt like a tomb or a cursed relic. Some whispered of ghosts, others of disease or madness brought on by the endless cold and night. None could truly explain the horror they sensed aboard that ship. The tale spread quickly, growing in the telling. Some said the captain had gone mad, locking his crew below decks, dooming them all to a slow, frozen death. Others spoke of supernatural forces, the Arctic spirits punishing those who dared trespass too far into their domain. A few wondered if the Octavius had truly sailed the Northwest Passage, her silent journey a tragic testament to human ambition. In the years that followed, other ships would vanish in the north, their fates unknown, their names added to the long list of maritime mysteries. The legend of the Octavius became a warning. The Arctic is vast, implacable, and indifferent to human dreams. Those who challenge her must be prepared to pay the ultimate price. Yet the story of the Octavius is not unique. Throughout history, other ghost ships have been found, their crews lost under strange and often terrifying circumstances. In the same year the Octavius was supposedly discovered, another ship, the Gloriana, was said to have been found by Captain John Warrens of the Try Again. The Gloriana's crew, too, was discovered frozen, their faces twisted in horror, the ship's log indicating it had been adrift for 13 years. Some have speculated that these two tales are in fact the same, their details blurred by time and retelling, but the core remains the same. A ship lost to the ice, a crew consumed by fear. Perhaps the most famous of these legends is that of the SS Ourang Medan, a Dutch freighter reportedly found drifting in 1947 in the Strait of Malacca. According to the tale, a distress call was received. All officers, including captain, dead, lying in chart room and bridge, possibly whole crew dead. When rescuers boarded the ship, they found the entire crew dead, their faces frozen in expressions of terror, their bodies contorted as if fleeing from something unseen. Moments later, the ship exploded and sank, taking its secrets with it. Though the Ourang Medan's existence is disputed, the story endures as a modern echo of the same primal fears that haunted the Octavius. What is it about these tales that captures the imagination? Is it the stark isolation of the sea, where help is far away and the elements show no mercy? Is it the fear of the unknown, the suspicion that there are forces in the world beyond our understanding? Or is it simply the tragedy of men and women who gambled everything against nature and lost? For those who sailed in the age of exploration, the sea was both a pathway to fortune and a realm of endless peril. The promise of new trade routes and untold riches drove ships into uncharted waters, where icebergs lurked and storms could tear a vessel apart in moments. The Arctic, with its shifting pack ice and bone-chilling cold, was the ultimate challenge. The Northwest Passage, in particular, was a siren song for adventurers, a shortcut connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, bypassing the long and dangerous voyage around South America. Many tried to find it. Few returned. The fate of the Octavius, whether wholly true or embellished over time, encapsulates the perils of such ambition. Imagine the crew, at first buoyed by the hope of glory, then slowly succumbing to despair as the ice closed in. Supplies dwindling, temperatures plunging, the endless night of the polar winter pressing down upon them. Isolation breeds unease, and in the silence of the Arctic, every creak of the ship, every groan of the ice would have sounded like a harbinger of doom. As days turned to weeks and weeks to months, the men would have huddled together, seeking warmth and comfort. But the cold is relentless. Frostbite claims fingers and toes, exhaustion gives way to apathy, and the mind begins to play tricks. In such conditions, fear becomes a constant companion, a fear not just of death, but of the unknown. What if rescue never comes? What if the ice never releases its grip? What if something else waits in the darkness, unseen and malevolent? The final moments of the Octavius's crew are lost to history, their thoughts and prayers unrecorded except in that last, desperate entry in the logbook. But the expressions found on their faces, as described by the men of the Herald, speak volumes. Whatever they saw, whatever they experienced, it went beyond the ordinary hardships of the sea. It was terror distilled, preserved in ice. The power of the Octavius legend lies not just in its mystery, but in its universality. It is a story about the limits of human endurance, the fragility of hope, and the ways in which the unknown can break even the strongest spirit. It is a reminder that nature is not just a backdrop for human adventure, but an active force, sometimes nurturing, more often indifferent, and occasionally terrifying. Over time, the tale has inspired countless retellings, each adding its own embellishments. Some say the logbook contained cryptic warnings, or that strange lights were seen around the ship before it vanished again into the mists. Others claim the Octavius reappears from time to time, a wandering ghost ship doomed to sail the Arctic forever, its crew eternally frozen in fear. Skeptics point to the lack of concrete evidence. No physical record of the Octavius exists beyond the stories passed down by sailors. Some historians suggest the tale is an amalgam of earlier ghost ship legends, its details borrowed and reshaped to fit the anxieties of each new generation. The sea, after all, is a fertile ground for myth-making. When faced with the inexplicable, humans reach for stories to make sense of the senseless. Yet, whether fact or fiction, the story persists. It speaks to something deep within us, a recognition of our own vulnerability, our own smallness in the face of the vast and indifferent universe. The Arctic remains, to this day, a place of mystery and danger, its secrets locked beneath layers of ice and time. There are lessons to be drawn from the Octavius, for those willing to listen. The first is humility. The sea does not care for human ambition or pride. It rewards preparation, respect, and caution. Those who venture into its most treacherous realms must do so with open eyes, knowing that they may not return. The second is the importance of memory. The Octavius may never be found again, but her story endures because people chose to remember, to pass down the warning, to honor the courage and folly of those who came before. In the end, stories are what connect us to the past, what allow us to learn from the mistakes and triumphs of others. And finally, there is the simple, unanswerable question at the heart of the legend. What did the crew of the Octavius see in those final moments that froze them in fear? Was it simply the inevitability of death, or something stranger, a glimpse into the unknown, a brush with something beyond comprehension? The question lingers, haunting the imagination, refusing to be laid to rest. As long as there are ships at sea, as long as there are those who look to the horizon and wonder what lies beyond, the legend of the Octavius will endure. It will be told in the quiet hours of the night, when the wind howls outside and the fire burns low. It will serve as a reminder of the thin line between adventure and disaster, between bravery and folly, between life and death. So the next time you stand by the shore and watch the waves roll in, remember the Octavius. Remember the frozen faces, the silent logbook, the ship that drifted for 13 years through the heart of darkness. Remember that the sea keeps her secrets well, and that sometimes the most terrifying thing of all is not what we know, but what we can never truly understand.